can humanity get away from violence? A lot of people would just say no, and a lot of people say, well, yes, if we just do this, that, the other thing, it will all be fine. I think both of these people are far too flippant in their answers. I've been thinking a lot about anarchist thought, uh, also sometimes called voluntarist thought, or voluntarism or voluntarism. The idea is that a properly organized, or not even organized, a properly oriented population would prefer that all of our interactions be voluntary in nature rather than coercive or violent or extortive. So the idea is, if I want you to do something, I have to convince you to do it, or make a deal with you, or trade you something so that you will do that thing, rather than saying, well, it's a law, you must do it for me. And if you don't do it for me, I will call the police and tell them that you're not following the law and that you must do this thing for me. It's kind of like that. Like you want, humans would naturally want to have their interactions with each other be voluntary in nature, not forced, not coerced. Opt-out clauses, like be able to not have someone else deciding for you what you shall be doing and then making you do it. I think generally voluntarism is onto something there. The question, though, with that is, well, what about the bad actors? Because there will always be bad actors. I don't think you can scrub humanity of bad actors. I don't think that's going to happen. So the question is what to do about the bad actors, and a voluntarist would say, well, if someone's going to violate you, you are totally within your right to stop them from doing that with force if need be. Because they're violating you, they're impinging on your person or taking your stuff. You can stop them from doing that without any kind of moral hazard. That's tricky for a lot of people to comprehend. That wait, you mean I'm responsible for defending myself? Yes, actually, you're responsible to defend yourself, or not, and just suffer. But the dialectic between freedom and responsibility is an interesting conversation. You could be totally free to do anything you want, and the consequences would pile up, probably. If you're not governed internally by some kind of moral compass that says, hey, I shouldn't do that. If I do that, people are going to get hurt, so I should not do that. A voluntary society requires an internal compass that is tuned to true north, which is, hey, don't hurt other people. That seems like it's not a big ask, but apparently it's huge. There are a lot of people who want government to do all kinds of things for them, and they're perfectly willing to have money extracted from other people by force if necessary, so that their stuff can get paid for by other people. The statist is the, talking about the dialectic. So you've got anarchists on one side and statists on the other. They're advocates of state power and state authority over the masses for the greater good. And then you've got these anarchists who are like, hey, there shouldn't be rulers. I can't rightly rule over you, so what makes you think you can rightly rule over me? It's a different way of thinking than most people are accustomed to over here with statism. It's just people think differently, and people think differently externally between each other, and then honestly, if we're really honest with ourselves, inside we got this kind of thinking and this kind of thinking on all kinds of myriad subjects. You can have, one person's got this opinion on abortion, and they're touting either right of the fetus or right of the mother, and their conversation is all principles and rights. But they're like, both sides of that debate are arguing principles and rights, and they're advocating for the life of someone. Um, and you see it everywhere. I mean, that's a great example just because the arguments are so similar, um, on both sides, arguing opposite positions, coming from a moral point of view. It's an interesting one. But here's the thing. Because we're all statists, or we seem to be in a statist culture at any rate, we're not okay with there being two arguments. Someone has to win and have their will imposed upon those who didn't agree. And the question I got is, well, how necessary is it that we have these violent systems? And if we have these violent systems, can we at least call them violent systems because they are inherently violent? Do this or I will hurt you is the paradigm underpinning the foundation. Every state has this threat implied in it that if you don't do what the state wants, we're going to make your life suck. We're going to put you in prison. We're going to fine you. We're going to confiscate your stuff. We're going to shove you off your land. We're going to do all kinds of horrible things to you until you comply with the greater good. That's the foundation of every government. It really is, and you can't get around that. The question is, can we do better? If it's necessary, well, okay, like, I can entertain the thought, okay, well, there are bad actors. There are people who freeload to the extent that it's really not fair to everyone else. We have to have something going on here. Well, to the extent that we have to have something going on here, can we acknowledge that, hey, this is a violent tool of oppression and control and should be used sparingly? Like, do we need it in order to collect tax revenue for a new fountain at a park? Do we apply that violent tool towards that end for the greater good? I think a lot of people would say, well, when you put it like that, it sounds kind of extreme. I don't know. I mean, like, what makes you? I mean, it's not really violence. It's just taxes. Like people can't comprehend that. No, this is a violent paradigm. Like, fundamentally, it's violence. So, what are we going to do about the fact that we have a core foundation of our society that is, hey, we're going to commit violence on you unless you comply? That's our whole system. That's our whole system. Is we need everyone within these bounds to behave like we say so. Rules subject to change by democratic processes. Blah 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 blah. But if you don't do whatever the thing is today, you will be persecuted. You will be prosecuted. You will be hauled, put in jail, have your stuff confiscated. Lose custody of your kids, whatever. Like, they will impose upon you dire consequences for not staying within these bounds. Now the question is, I mean, there are a few questions. Can we do better? Are the bounds the right bounds? But I think really, like, to the extent that we accept that this system has to be in place, I would say that we have to use it for very few things sparingly. Like we need to really have a conversation that's honest about, well, what do we need to threaten people over? Do we need to threaten people over the roads? Do we need to threaten people over bridge construction? You want a safe bridge, right? Do we need to threaten people over that guy's health care? That, we need to take money from you so that guy can have his diabetes treated. Do we need to threaten you in order to to do all these things that we think are public goods, are generally good things? Do we need to threaten people so that these good things can be there for everybody? I'm not going to provide an answer for you here in this video. You're going to be disappointed in that because I don't really have one. I think that I have my own inclinations, my own desires, my own wishes, then I wouldn't force on other people. And, I think it's worthwhile to have a conversation over which public goods are so good and so necessary that we need to use this toolbox. If we find things that are not rising to that level, we need to stop taxing for those. We need to stop taking people's stuff in order to fund these things that don't fit into this tight box of, we really got to use violence here to make this happen. I'm not saying we don't need violence. I wish we didn't. In my core, I don't want people threatening each other all the time over stupid shit at all. I don't want that. But to the extent that, well, hold on a second now. This guy's encroaching on my house. They've moved into my house. They're moving my shit around. I want to move them out. You might have to pick up a bat. And I'm not against that. I don't think that it is inherently evil to use force to push someone out of your house if they won't leave, and it's your house, rightfully. Then we get into the whole question of rightfully your house, which is a whole other ball of wax when you start talking about land use and the commons and private property. It gets pretty sticky pretty damn fast, which is why I don't want to present a single solution here, but I do want to suggest that, hey, this foundation of society is really big and violent, and we keep adding on rules for people that keep expanding this foundation of violence to include all kinds of aspects of our lives. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about the fact that we keep getting more laws encompassing more people, encompassing more activities, legislating more things, always more control, always more control, always bigger, bigger, bigger. What do we do about that rightfully? I mean, we've got a real problem here because I'm sitting here in arguably the middle of the biggest empire on the planet that the planet has ever seen, here in arguably the United States of America, and it's there's violence everywhere. It's what's holding this amalgam together. It used to be ideas, but we're figuring out that our ideas and principles don't mean shit, and so now we got people screaming for violent control of the population on both sides. It's crazy. I wandered quite a bit.